The modern concept of undercover journalism and what it implies and entails was first forged back in 1887 when writer Nellie Bly released 10 Days in a Madhouse, her book that detailed her time spent with a mental institution. The exposé saw Nellie Bly taking an undercover assignment from New York World that required her to feign insanity in order to investigate reports of heinous and maltreated treatment of the women's lunatic asylum on Blackwell's Island. It wasn't the first case of undercover journalism, surely, but it was the first prominent instance of undercover journalism and clearly defined the style of investigative journalism going forward. Faking her insanity, Bly spent a total of 10 days at the asylum experiencing the following: detestable food, egregious treatment, appalling conditions, and repugnant treatments of her patients. In what amounted to be a hellish trial, Bly never broke character. Experiencing the conditions firsthand gave Bly insight and a perspective that otherwise would have been unobtainable. When her book released, it caused a sensation and brought her lasting fame. It took undercover journalism from obscurity and brought it into the celebrity-making and ethically complex investigative journalism we understand it to be today. Over the next few decades, undercover journalism slowly but incessantly became more and more prominent. Journalists like Gunter Wallraff inaugurated undercover journalism as a tool for social justice, using it to combat dictatorships, profoundly expose social injustices, and give voices to the voiceless. However, the next salient landmark came from the work of Hunter S. Thompson in the 1970s. Hunter S. Thompson was an American journalist and writer and the founding father of gonzo journalism. He bursted on the scene with his work, Hell's Angels, the strange and terrible saga of the outlaw motorcycle gangs. The book detailed the year he had spent living and riding with the Angels, experiencing their lives and hearing their stories firsthand. He drank at their bars, exchanged home visits, recorded their brutalities, viewed their sexual caprices, became converted to their motorcycle mystique. Undercover journalism reached a new controversial high when Thompson's work was published. The narrative soon became about the controversial methods of undercover journalism, in this instance of Thompson being a bystander while heinous and serious crimes were committed. Beyond the new wave of undercover journalism criticism that Thompson brought, he also founded a style of journalism called gonzo journalism. Gonzo journalism is a style of journalism that is written without claims of objectivity, often including the reporter as part of the story via a first-person narrative. As a result of a rising public interest in cases where undercover journalism was deployed, which can be largely chalked up to the rapid growth of TV and internet news, it has become an increasingly more common style of journalism, and with that, the rise of cases of inadequate and negligent of undercover journalism. In 2015, Daladin released videos showing Planned Parenthood officials discussing fees surrounding human fetal tissues and organs. The result was public uproar from both sides of the pro-life, pro-choice debate. Daladin went on to set up a tax-exempt biomedicine charity group called the Center for Medical Progress. In addition, Daladin set up a fake biomedical research company called Biomax Procurement Services and created secret recordings where his associates asked about tissue donation costs. This was done in correlation to the accusations that Planned Parenthood were selling baby parts to recoup revenue. The video still stole national headlines for days and had consequences such as funding to Planned Parenthood being drastically cut, general public confusion about Planned Parenthood. Further, the videos brought Planned Parenthood under federal investigation. The Texas grand jury charged with investigating into the alleged wrongdoing by Planned Parenthood ultimately declined to indict the health clinic, instead deciding to indict Daladin on felony count of tampering with governmental records and misdemeanor charge for emailing an offer to buy fetal tissue for $1,600. We decided the Center for Medical Progress practiced poor methods to access information from Planned Parenthood in an unethical manner. In order to gain access to the interviews with organizations' representatives, the center tampered with government documents, such as the driver's licenses used to disguise their identity. Instead of revealing who they really were, they pretended to be employees of the illegitimate Biomax Procurement Services Daladin created. The Planned Parenthood incident spread rapidly due to social media. Websites like Facebook and Twitter encouraged people to actively participate in the media via hashtags like #IStandWithPP and #DefundPP. It links users to social media domains beyond the media. This topic even made it to the presidential debate stage, especially with presidential candidates like Mike Huckabee, Carly Fiorina, and Chris Christie.
I dare Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama to watch these tapes. Watch a fully formed fetus on the table, its heart beating, its legs kicking. while someone says we have to keep it alive to harvest its brain. This is about the character of our nation. And if we will not stand up and force President Obama to veto this bill, shame on us.
Though Planned Parenthood was proven innocent, this shows how false info can spread into public opinion. It's also suggested that the wide circulation of these videos could have influenced Robert Deere to commit a fatal shooting at a Planned Parenthood facility in Colorado this past November. After the murder, he referred to the rhetoric surrounding the videos, quoting, "No more baby parts." Because the center launched such an intense media campaign, they must have done a lot of planning before releasing their findings. However, we wonder if they considered some key questions surrounding media ethics. If the journalists from ABC News weren't considered protected under the First Amendment when they lied on their job applications for Food Lion, those working for the Center for Medical Progress should not be protected either. This is where Kant's categorical imperative comes in. If a set of standards that allow people to falsify their identities, perhaps more folks would think it's okay to lie instead of exploring alternative reporting methods. Instead of lying about who they were, the center should have attempted to schedule interviews with Planned Parenthood officials who most likely would have given similar answers, since donating fetal tissue is a documented, approved practice of the organization. To be fair, we did discuss when it is necessary to lie while reporting, and most of us agree it was okay as a last resort option in a scenario that significantly impacts many people. The findings from the Center for Medical Progress was not a governmental scandal. It did not reveal that people were in immediate danger. It simply made a claim that they were profiting off of fetal tissue, which ultimately lost all validity when the indictment switched from Planned Parenthood to the Center for Medical Progress. Additionally, we question the values of privacy here. Even though Planned Parenthood could be deemed as a public figure, does that make it right for an obviously anti-abortion group to be the ones to do the reporting on their practices? If we refer to the SPJ Code of Ethics, they lack transparency. Their website claims they are a group of citizen journalists dedicated to monitoring and reporting on medical ethics and advances. They do not explicitly state they are against abortion, but vaguely refer to it as contemporary bioethical issues that impact human dignity. Yet if you research the founder, David Daladin, it doesn't take long to discover his past experiences working for Live Action, a nonprofit priding itself in an anti-abortion views, with thousands and thousands of followers on social media. Another ethical issue surrounds the videos themselves. The so-called evidence compiled was strategically edited to fit the narrative the center was trying to create. They combined old, irrelevant news footage with their undercover footage that doesn't tell the full story. The undercover videos are also cut up multiple times, so we don't fully know what was said between those cuts.
No, but it is something to talk about. I mean, it's one of the first things that you brought up, right? So
now here's another thought is, we can talk about specimen as per specimen per case.
They should have released parts of the raw footage, which merely showed Planned Parenthood representatives reviewing their legal process in donating fetal tissue for medical research. The fees mentioned refer to the cost of safely transferring tissue from the Planned Parenthood facility to the research organization. Enacting Mill's principle of utility, the Center for Medical Progress probably used these drastic measures to justify their end goal, exposing Planned Parenthood of wrongdoing. Did they consider Confucius's golden rule and the ethics of reciprocity? Would they be happy if other journalists lied about themselves to perform a sting operation on their group? What about Potter's Box? What moral values are embedded in this story, especially in wake of the verdict that Planned Parenthood was clear of any wrongdoings? Additionally, did they consider the stakeholders affected by this series? If they successfully helped to defund Planned Parenthood, that decision would touch countless women across the country. Regardless of pro-life and pro-choice politics, we believe that Center for Medical Progress's videos are not a shining example of journalism based on the unethical methods of reporting.